A new poll reveals most Americans want the rich to pay more in taxes. But it also reveals Americans have a misconception in how much the top 1% actually pays in. Here's the question. How much do you think the top 1% of taxpayers account for in terms of share of total federal income taxes paid? 22% guess the wealthy pay 1%. A quarter of Americans guess 12%. 22% guessed 42%, and just a fraction guessed 64%. The correct answer, the top 1% of earners account for 42% of federal income taxes paid. Nearly half of Americans thought they contribute less than 12%. 1/3 of Democrats polled thought the top 1% pay only 1% of all income taxes. 77% of Democrats believe the wealthy aren't paying their fair share. But Democrats aren't alone in wanting the rich to pay in more. 54% of all Americans want top earners to pay higher taxes. But in another poll question, Americans contradict themselves. 71% say the rich should be taxed at most 30%. But the current bracket already has top earners taxed at a 37% rate. So Americans want the rich to pay more, but overwhelmingly want to lower the top tax rate.
Bottom line is Americans are completely, totally clueless about what the top 1% pay. I saw one poll a few years ago that found that Democrats felt that rich people should pay no more than 25% in all taxes, federal, state, and local. They pay substantially more than that and have no blooming idea what the 1% pay, and therefore they want them to pay more. John Thune is the Senate Majority Leader, number 19.
Well, I don't want to see taxes go up on anybody, Joe. I mean, we're all about lowering taxes, not raising taxes. But I do think the president, he's not a conventional president. People didn't vote for a conventional president, and I think his policies reflect that.
And about the possibility of President Trump supporting a tax hike for the so-called rich. This is NBC's Chuck Todd, number 20.
But here's a dirty little secret about tax hikes on the rich. They're popular. Okay? It is because most Americans are not rich, right? This is why so many Democrat politicians have been very comfortable going out there, going back to, we're going to get rid of the Bush tax cuts, and it was majority were in favor of it, right? You know, it is a popular thing. And, you know, look, this thing's all over the place, this tax bill negotiation. But it was a couple weeks ago he floated the idea of no taxes at all on anybody in the first $200,000 of income. Well, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to go find money somewhere else. And in some ways, figuring out how to fulfill the pledge on no taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Security and all that stuff, he probably has to come up with something that is create that income floor.
22% thought the top 1% paid 1%. Are you kidding me? So that was 2008, is now 2024 last year. Poll asked Americans what they thought the top 1% paid. And as I mentioned, 22% thought the 1% paid 1%. 25% thought the top 1% paid 42%. Only 24% got the answer right. 19% said they were not sure. 19% they were not sure. And the answer is now the top 1% pay 42% of all the federal income taxes. By the way, not too surprisingly, Democrats were far more ignorant about this than anybody else. A third of Democrats thought the top 1% paid only 1% of all income taxes. Now think about that. I told you about that poll on policemag.com where self-described very liberal people were asked, how many unarmed black men did the police kill in 2019? 50% of the self-described very liberal people thought the police killed 1,000 unarmed black men in 2019. 8% of the self-described very liberal people thought the police killed 10,000. According to the Washington Post database, the answer was 11. I mention that because I'm sure if you ask self-described very liberal people what percentage of the federal income taxes is paid by the top 1%, the answers would be equally wacky. I bet you anything that if you were to ask self-described, very liberal people, what percentage of the federal income taxes were paid by the top 1%, I bet you the answer would probably be about 50% thought they paid 1% or less. This is Ami Horowitz, who went out to the streets to ask people, number 26.
I'm Ami Horowitz, and the mantra of the left is that the rich don't pay their fair share in taxes. Let's go find out if that's true. Do you think the rich pay their fair share in taxes?
No, dude.
Do the rich pay their fair share in taxes?
Absolutely not. In America, in the United States, absolutely not.
Absolutely not fair if all things are considered.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
No, no chance.
No, absolutely not.
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
Definitely not.
Not even close. Yeah.
No. No.
Oh, hell no.
No.
No. I don't think they pay their fair share of taxes at all.
Do you think the rich pay their fair share in taxes?
Do they even pay taxes at all?
You can't even calculate the extreme that the 1% has.
The problem with a lot of them is that they just would rather, they'd rather be dead than see poor people be rich or be well off.
I mean, I know people in America think of Gaddafi as a negative guy, but let's go back to Libya. Libya, free education, free electricity.
Gaddafi was slaughtering people in the streets.
He was slaughtering people in the streets.
So it's a 6 of this, half dozen the other.
I just think capitalism is stupid and it doesn't work. I mean, obviously, look at our country, it doesn't work.
How is it possible for billionaires to even exist in this country?
And you've got the most starving, suffering people on the in the richest country in the world.
Now, wait a second. You come from Zimbabwe. More people are starving in Zimbabwe than here.
They sold me a lemon.
I just think people shouldn't even be able to make as much money as they do.
So you think there should be a cap on income?
Yes, fully.
What we're looking at is serfdom.
What percentage should be paid by the top 1%?
Probably 60%.
70 or 80%.
75.
I think if they could kick it up to 75 to 80, that would be good, man.
Hit them up for 80%.
They need to be freaking taxed.
Well, what's wrong with 90%?
90% is, I like you. I love you, man. 90%. That's 90% is good.
95%?
Dude,
they can live on 5%.
I think they can live on 5%, man. I get where you're going with this, man. I totally agree.
Like 99% of their wealth.
Why should people with less money be paying more than billionaires when they literally don't have that money to pay in the first place?
Why do you think poor people pay more than rich people?
Because this country is a joke.
The poorest people are being milked more than the freaking rich.
So do you think that the poor pay a higher percentage of their income?
Yes.
Or the rich?
They do pay a higher percentage of their income. Yeah, they do, yeah.
Oh, the lower class, definitely.
Pay more?
Yeah.
Lower income people. Poor people.
The 1% earn about 25% of all the income in America.
So there you go. If we're talking about fair share, then, you know, if you're bringing in 25% of the income, 25% of the taxes should also...
That would be fair.
I would think so, yeah.
And would you be surprised if I told you that the top 1% pay 40% of all taxes?
I would be surprised, yeah.
Would it surprise you if I said the rich, the 1%, pay 40% of all taxes in America?
Interesting. Would surprise me. Yeah. Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a little more fair than you might have thought.
Yeah.
What percent of income do you think the top 1% pay?
I think they're paying like freaking 2% of that.
They're paying 27%.
What?
27%. What percent of their income do you think people at the 50% and below pay?
Probably higher than 27%. It gets higher the lower your income comes.
So what do the number is?
I think it's probably over 50.
It's 4%.
Oh, wow. Huh. Interesting.
That's a little more fair.
Yeah, that sounds fair. Man, yeah. I need to study up more on this, man. I'm not paying attention to actual numbers.
Would it surprise you if I said that the top 1% pay 27% of their income in taxes?
27%.
And the bottom 50% pay 4% of their income in taxes.
Really?
Does that surprise you?
Yes.
Does that seem more fair?
Yeah, it would be pretty fair.
Oh, wow. Yes, I would.
Now, he's
I didn't
talking
know that.
about all taxes, which includes not just federal income taxes, but all taxes. Top 1% pays 27%. Top 1%, 42% of all the federal income taxes, which is the number one revenue source for government. Bottom 50% pay roughly 4% of their income in taxes, and the bottom 30% pay nothing in federal income taxes. Zero, zip, nada, and most people are completely clueless, which is why Democrats want millionaires and billionaires to pay even more.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.